Good evening. How are you all? Looks like you're enjoying the pakoras and the snacks and the chai, thanks to Cafe Bahar. And I would like to thank Apurva. Thank you for sponsoring this month's session. You are with the Winning Feathers, and you're also a panel for the second session. So thank you. And you are still in jet lag. You just landed from India yesterday, so thank you for being here. And so thank you again. This is our probably the 17th or the 18th session. We hold these giant chats monthly. And it is to improve humanitarian efforts. It is to build bridges between communities, cross-cultural dialogues, etc., on different topics. Sometimes the topics are on, especially the hot topics that's discussed, or whatever is happening, the hot button topics. We've discussed from anywhere from politics to volunteering to crime prevention and anything that affects our community. And today we are in a treat, and we do have one of the panelists almost on her way, so she's going to join us very shortly. And today it's a treat because when have you had teenagers getting involved in your conversations? Never, right? Like, yeah, I've never. It's hard, and that's where we are trying to connect the bridge, because we need their technology and they need our wisdom as well, right? So where is the common ground to bring all of us together? And again, I'm going to introduce quickly, but if you can see the profile is behind on that through the slide deck, you'll see it over there. It has all their background on what they like, which school, and all that. But I'm going to quickly introduce the panelists by their names, and we're going to start with the questions after that. So we have, from my left, we have Hemal Subbarao. Thank you so much. She is the mother of a teenager, and also she wears several other hats, from being an entrepreneur, and also she owns founded the Ivy League Elementary School Academy. And next we have Gabby. Yes, her full name is over there. But Gabby, thank you so much for being here. And we're looking forward to your answers as well. We have Sid, and we have Suraj, and we have Saket, and we have Nikita, and Eliza, and Catherine is going to be here soon. And that's Rossi. And Senator, a special thank you to you for taking your time and being here, just for you to sit among these teenagers here today and to tell your story. You don't even know what a great difference you are making. So we're looking forward to hearing your story. And I would like to acknowledge, I don't know if Angelica is here, but if she's here, she's going to, okay, she's over there. So I'm going, as soon as Angelica gets here, she is also a recently elected state rep from the Johns Creek area. So she's one person that you would want to know. So definitely I would like to thank her for attending this evening today. And I think as adults or teenagers, by the way, I turned 19 last year. So I don't know where to put myself, but my kids don't agree with it. So Angelica, thank you so much for being here. I was just saying, acknowledging you for being here. And we have any issues or problems in this area, we come to you. Yes. There you go.
Any state issues you have.
Any state issues.
If it's about zoning and potholes, please go to the city council.
Got it. That makes a huge difference, and thank you, Angelica. And so any adults or teenagers, I think we owe it to ourselves, and they owe it to us to understand us, and we owe it to them to listen to them, right? Having kids myself, I think many a times it just goes beyond my ears what they're saying, and they understand that I've not been listening, and they ask me questions. What did I just say? And sometimes I have to gulp, like I just missed what you said. So, so that's why this is very important, at least starting the dialogues. And Senator, I would like to start with you, and these are just the starter questions. If you had an opportunity to travel anywhere in the world, where would you go? Wow. And give a reason for your answer.
I'll say Singapore. I'm going to be biased because what happened, that's the first country that I ever traveled back home. It was a long time ago. It was 19, if I tell you, then I'm going to say how old I am. It was 1978 or 79. It's a long time ago. Because they were so disciplined. And when I first time went over there, it was so clean and nice. I don't know. So that's what my short answer going to be.
Two places I always tell people, at least in America here, to visit, to be on their bucket list is India and Singapore. Yes, I love the public transportation system, so you should never miss Singapore or India for their cultural arts as well. Yes, thank you.
I agree with that. For India too, next, it's a beautiful place. I've been there too, so.
Sure, thank you. And Rossi, if you can get the mic from our senator. Rossi, tell me what life means to you. And you can look at the audience and speak and with the mic here.
I think life means like having a purpose to be on earth, because everyone has a purpose.
And what is your purpose? You like to, what is your purpose? Because life has a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any purpose? What do you think is your purpose?
To like enjoy life, like just like everyone else should.
I'm happy she said that.
Thank you, Rossi. I never expected that, but it's a good one. We're going to get to Catherine's question soon, but Eliza, if you had $1 million, if you can press that button, if you had $1 million, what would you do?
This might sound kind of weird, but like I think I would
And you can look at the audience.
I think I would give it to charity, because I think it's really important to give what you don't need, because there are a lot of people who don't have what they need. So I think it's really important to share and distribute wealth to people who can't survive with what they have right now.
Very nice, thank you. Good job. So Nikita, love marriage or arranged marriage?
Well, I feel like my parents might not agree with this.
Are they here today?
No, they're not.
You can say anything you want.
But I would definitely say love marriage, because not only is it important to be with someone that complements your attributes and your characteristics, but it's also important that you're sharing your life with them. So it's important to be with someone you want to be with, not someone you're forced into or someone you simply cannot like tolerate, and it's just like a detriment to yourself if you're in an arranged marriage, I feel.
Sure. I asked this question to Rossi this morning, and by the way, Rossi is my daughter, and I have to tell you the story why she's sitting on that seat. But I answered the same thing today morning. So I'm just so surprised. Each of your words just sounded similar. So must be this generation then, right? Okay, sounds good. So Saket, confused children or confused adults?
I would say confused adults, because we don't want, like when we grow old and gray, we don't want like stupid people making mistakes for us rather than us making mistakes for the next generation.
Wow, that was a bold statement. Thank you so much, Saket. And Suraj, if you had to choose a family member 24/7 to be with you for entire 1 week, 24/7, who would that be?
I would have to say my brother, because he's been like such a big impact on my life, and being able to experience like being with him 24/7 would be like the best thing that actually could like that I could like do for the whole week. Because like I mean, out of like anybody that I know, I had the most fun with him. So I think I would say.
Is he an
him.
older brother or younger brother?
He's an older brother, and he's like right now he's finally graduated college, so you know. He's living an experience in New York, and I guess New York would be pretty awesome too. So
do you miss him?
I do miss him like very much, but I mean he'll come back like here and there, so it's not like he's gone forever, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. That was a good answer. So Sid, what is one thing that you wish your parents had said while you were growing up? And that doesn't mean you've grown up already. You're still growing up, but probably until now.
I think that's a great question, and honestly, I don't have a proper answer for that, because I think my parents have said everything that I wanted them to say, and they've supported me. And I think, you know, in today's society, we have a lot of stereotypical notions and stereotypes about Asian parents, you know, black parents, white parents, regardless of race. And I think they completely broke that boundary, and I'm so happy. Like they've supported me through everything, and I think that's the greatest thing that, I could wish for, and that I don't wish for anything for them to guide me in any other way. And I think what they're doing is great. So
Very nice, thank you. And Catherine, thank you for joining us. Thank you. Yeah. No, you're fine. I'm just going to come back to you after we finish the questions here. So, Gabby, who is someone you admire and respect, and why?
So one of my greatest role models in my life is my mom. So she is from Puerto Rico. She came to the United States right out of college with my dad. So, they always make the joke that, a lot of families come to the United States with nothing, and they came to the U.S. with debt. So, they had college loans and everything. So she didn't speak English at all, and she worked really hard, took on 2 jobs, and she was pregnant with my brother and worked really hard. And everything that I have is because of my parents and because of my mom especially. So
Great, thank you. And Hemal, this question was supposed to be for teenagers, but you know what? We used to be teenagers at some point. So is it us space or personal space?
I think for me, it's always been a space, for sure. I've always enjoyed being around people. I enjoy talking. I enjoy debate. I really, really enjoy it when somebody has a different opinion than me, because that kind of helps me see different perspectives. I also enjoyed going to my friends' homes, because then I could see how they lived, a little glimpse, but I could see the similarities, I could see the differences. So it's definitely our space, for sure.
Very nice, sounds good. And so Catherine, when has there been a time when you've not been wanting to be with a family member? Or rather, when would you not like to be with family members? Is there any specific time?
Well, there are going to be times when I just want to be with friends and I want those intimate
audience.
Okay, I'm just nervous, that's all. Well, there are going to be times when I just want to be with my friends, or there's just one family member that I want to spend time with. I do greatly value intimacy and privacy.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Thank you. So, Senator, the New York Times in 1920 said a rocket will never be able to leave the Earth's atmosphere. Yes, they said that in 1920, the New York Times, and then they retracted it in 1969 because we already showed a different path. But what I'm coming to this is a vision for the future, right? Did you ever imagine 10, 20 years ago, from the place that you're coming from your perspective, that you would be landing to become a senator in Georgia? Can you tell us, can you run us through that? What was your vision? What made you say, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen?
Well, I never say never. I'm a person being optimistic. Nothing can really stop me. You have to follow your dream. And I always knew, I came to this country in 1981, January, right after President Carter lost his election. And that was a tough time for, people brown colored, anybody looks like different. I was going to a 2 years community college in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a bunch of, I wasn't sure exactly how many folks were in a truck. Somebody threw a beer can at me, they say, "Raghead, go home." I still remember that because, all this thing happened because the Iranian hostess crisis was going on. And I'm from Bangladesh. I wasn't even from Middle East. So anyway, that didn't stop me. In 1982, a friend of mine came in, and at that particular time, the mayor of Charlotte was running for the governor. And he said, "You want to go door hanger?" I said, "Let's go." As an optimist person I am, so I had no clue what does a door hanger mean, knocking door. I said, "Let's go." So that's what I started. So I it really never bothered me or stopped me to doing what I wanted to do. I always enjoyed, but I never thought I'm going to get elected in this country. I have to admit that. But I was involved in politics. But when President Obama got elected, that really, I was actually delegate at large for President Obama. And I'm the first Asian ever elected to the Democratic National Executive Committee. I'm still a super delegate, and I'm elected, not appointed. So I work from the political party, from the knocking door, from the county party, for the state party, at the national party, the highest level you can go. And I never gave up. So one thing I tell all young folks, if you have a dream, you never give up. You follow your dream. And of course, I have to come back to your question. I never thought I can get elected, but when President Obama got elected, I had a hope, then I can get elected. I just can't, I will. I believed in myself. That was the most important things to me.
So why specifically President Obama getting elected that impacted you?
Well, I figured out, as an African American, if you can get elected in this country, people like me have a hope. And what I want young folks to look at me and say, if this guy can do it, I can do it too. We all can do it. We just can't stay on the sideline. Doesn't matter what political party, what is your ideology, what you believe in it, but nobody can represent, and I represent all the people in my district in Georgia. What I do at the Senate, that will affect everybody in the state of Georgia. I don't want to take that lightly either. But the thing is, there's going to be a time that I need to represent the people who look like me. And that's most important. That's the most important things to me than anything else. And that's what I wanted to do. That's what I believe.
And then you ran for office.
Yeah, that's what I ran for office.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, you are an inspiration to many indeed. So
Thank
you. Great. Rossi, if you can. So Rossi, do you believe that there is goodness and bad in this world? And how do you stand up for people if they don't have a voice? And how would you do that, or is it none of your business?
I do believe there is goodness and badness in this world, but it's like you never know why a person or a thing is bad.
Okay. And what would you stand up for people who are going through some tough time, or would you say it's none of your business?
I would stand up for them because I'd want someone to stand up for me if I was going through like a rough or hard time. So I'd just be there for them or do whatever I can to help them.
Do you have you done that recently? Can you think of any situation that has happened recently? You helping anyone at school? Okay, so I have to tell you what happened. I was looking for an elementary school kid to be on the panel, right? And I looked for 1 week. And then she gets a call from her friend for a sleepover. And I said, no, Rossi, you just had a sleepover last month. She said, Mom, I'll get on your panel. So I took the deal, right? I said, okay, now I don't have to look for elementary kids anymore. So thank you, Rossi. So Catherine, the question I have for you is, 150 years ago, women couldn't vote, right? Sounds absurd now, right? Why couldn't I vote, right? But that happened, and gradually things changed. We started accepting change. But tell me, what does equal rights mean to you?
Well, equal rights means that everyone is considered an equal human being, that all their thoughts and feelings matter, and that no one is greater than anyone else because their religion, the color of their skin, or where they come from. None of that matters. Everybody is equal.
Okay. And can you think of any particular situation where you had to speak up about equal rights or tell people that's not right? Or any instances recently or in the past year where you had to stand up for yourself or others?
Well, I can think back to middle school where there were other girls in my class that would give me a hard time because of my lighter skin complexion. They were jealous of me because in society, when you're lighter skin complexion, you're considered more intelligent and more beautiful. And I had to let them know that that is not the case, that they need to value themselves and see themselves as equal and not attack me.
Okay, great. So, Eliza, the question I have for you is on politics. As adults, we all speak about politics, right? Inside the house, in parties, in evenings, get together. At least personally, I've never heard a teenager talk about politics. Holding debates is different because you're doing it professionally. I'm just curious, do you guys ever get together and say, okay, let's talk about politics? And what does politics mean to you?
Politics are very important to me. And I would say, like, maybe my friends don't all say, let's get together and talk about politics. But when I'm with my friends, I talk about politics because it is so important to me. And I believe it shapes our world, it shapes our society, it shapes everything that the future generations will experience. So we have to act now for what will happen later. So yes, I do like to talk about politics a lot with my friends and with adults because I think everyone has a different background and a different approach to it, and they're all very important and valid.
How do teens in general view politics as? And do you have, I wouldn't say to talk about any presidents in particular, but what are your thoughts that are going on when adults have opinions? What about the teens?
I think teens do have opinions on politics, but they're kind of discouraged to talk about them, to have opinions about them, because they can't vote. So they can't do anything about it. They can't elect someone. They can't say, no, that's not right, we shouldn't vote for them. So they kind of get discouraged from talking about it, when I think it's very important that teens do talk about it now, because we will be able to vote when we're 18.
But you have influence. You can influence, right?
Yes, and I think like one of the ways that teens influence is by talking about it and influencing each other's friends and their peers.
Do you shrug shoulders or roll your eyes when you know the person opposite to you is not talking in your terms on politics?
No, I think it's important to hear them out, because that's like a real problem in politics, and we see that with adults. They don't hear each other out. They don't fully absorb what each other is saying. And so I think if we can break that now as teenagers who aren't flung into the process of voting and all of that, where it becomes a serious barrier in relationships and friendships, if we can break through that now while we're young and develop that skill, it will be with us for a lifetime.
Great, thank you so much, Eliza. You're teaching the adults. In fact, all of you are teaching the adults. We have some lessons to take home today. So, Nikita, I also understand you are an ambassador at the UNICEF Congressional Action Team here in Atlanta. In a way, our kids are lucky. You're lucky to be sitting here. You don't have to worry what's the next item on the table for food is, how you're going to go to school tomorrow, and there's certainty that you have parents around you, people who love, or all of us. But in the world, there are children who, and that's what UNICEF does. It helps children who are underprivileged or disadvantaged. Why should we invest in children? Each of us can invest in children. We invest in our own children, right? But how can government or we as individuals invest in children? Why is it important to invest in children, especially for those who are growing in poverty, who are very uncertain what food they're going to eat the next day? And I'm asking you this question because I'm sure these are the things you talk about at UNICEF.
I mean, yeah, that's an amazing question. So, I mean, I believe children are very important to invest in because children are the future of this world. They're who develop into the future leaders. And especially people or children in poverty who do not have the same opportunities as us. They are the ones who need to be more invested in because, say us, for example, we have opportunities all around us. We don't need to worry about, as you said, like food on our table or shelter. But for these children who live in impoverished areas, they don't see education as their hope, as their way of getting out. And in UNICEF, that's what we aim to do. We aim to help children see that education is your way out of this vicious cycle that they're enforced into of poverty. So.
Very nice, thank you. So Saket, I've read that you are volunteering in local public libraries and many other organizations. I've always believed in volunteering. In fact, I was a preceptor for 10 to 15 interns at the same time when I was at the health department, so I believed in giving opportunities for a younger generation. and just because it's like a succession plan, you pass on your thing. And so what do you do that in expectation you'll get something in return? Does it bring satisfaction to you, volunteering?
I like sort of use like volunteering as like an outlet, like something that I do in the time that I'm all stressed out and all. I have something else to worry about. Like I can help others through my free time. Yeah, and then what was the second part?
Are you satisfied, or do you expect anything in return while volunteering?
No, I don't expect anything in return because like other than my own satisfaction, yay, I did something, I helped someone. But yeah.
Very nice. So it's in your genes that you want to help.
Yeah, I guess it's like in everyone's genes that they want to help, but sometimes they may have some other plans in front of them or time that they don't have that they can't volunteer.
Okay, very nice. So I'm just reminding the audience that you do have snacks and chai, hot chai in the kitchen. So please feel free to grab and bring it in here as well anytime. And just to follow up on the question is when you are going to be submitting your resumes for jobs, and I think Senator can vouch to this, what I've done, Senator, is always looked at the candidate's last page, because that's where the volunteering experience comes. I think education is everything is good, but I think the last page defines how much that person really cares and gives back to the community. So that has really helped me review resumes in the past. So thank you so much for that. So Suraj, the question I have for you is very important in this age and technology, and that's something that I've been trying to debate with my kids as well, social media, right? We grew up in a time where there was no social media, at least 50 to 70% of the people here. And so how is it different for you guys, the pros and cons of the social media? What if your parent told you like no more phone and they're going to be controlling your computer access and monitoring you? How does that make you feel?
So like for the pros and cons, I would say that like social media in of itself is a great tool, especially for things like local politics and community service, because nowadays we can mobilize others and get others involved by contacting someone that we would not have been able to contact previously when we didn't have social media. Like things where I've seen on like Instagram posts and like Snapchat stories where people are asking their fellow peers to go out and vote in like the midterms, which is like something that only social media can offer, and that's really bridged the gap between people who didn't even have access to get involved in politics, but now they do. But I would say one like big con is like things like that's coming now is like cyberbullying. People don't understand the value and importance of social media, so they're using it in terrible ways that should be prevented. I think that's like one reason why social media has a bad stigma when it can be used in such a great way. But when it comes to like my parents like trying to take my phone if I'm like too much like using it too much, I would say like it's totally justified just because like yeah, like I'll be on Instagram and Snapchat and maybe that might be a waste of time, but I definitely totally understand why parents would be like, hey, like social media, like if you're not using it correctly in a way that can help other people, then there's no reason to be using it at all. So that's how I would see it from their perspective.
Okay, sure. So what have teens, or what could teens do further to prevent or stop cyberbullying?
So I would think the biggest way to like people like get others to stop cyberbullying or not get involved with it is that when you're behind a screen, you can't see the other person's emotions when you are like saying something that you might not even think is harmful, but it truly is. And the way to like prevent this is that people need to understand that there's a reaction that comes from what you say. You might not be able to see it, and that might like make you feel okay with what you're doing, but if people are educated that there is a reaction to what someone says, that's extremely important, and it could prevent people, because I know that there's goodness in everybody's hearts, and if they truly understood that what they could say have damaging potential to do something completely bad when they're saying something like horrible, not even intending to, I think that could be a big way to prevent cyberbullying from happening.
let me narrate to you a real situation that I'm going through, and let me see how your answer is and what my thinking has been. So I've on social media recently, I noticed that this guy is asking this lady to do something out in the open, in the sense he's asking her to say something and write on her post, for which she has said, I don't need to do this just because you're saying, it's in my heart. You know, it's completely not about relationship, it's about something else. So, and then what he does, because she didn't give him the benefit of doing what he asked her to do, he puts it out in public and says, look, hey, we've been supporting her, but she wouldn't come out and say this. So I was going to reach out to that lady because I'm a woman. I feel for the other person, especially a female who's being bullied. I want to say you should tell him to stop, or you should go file harassment charges, or you should file that you're being threatened. What would you think that was none of your business? Even though I don't know both of them, but I feel I have some information that can help her. Whether she takes it or not, it's up to her. Would you have just noticed and left? What is the reaction for teenagers? Or is this something every day it happens?
So a lot of times in like social groups in high school, they do go through things like cyberbullying, and it seems normal to them. But in a case where a doll has never even experienced a form of cyberbullying till then, and they're being attacked online, the first thing I would do is contact both the harasser and the person who was being harassed. And first things first is that I would tell the woman who is being like attacked online, that you should do something about this, because it's not fair for you to feel that pain when you truly don't deserve it. And for the harasser, it's important that you never know their intentions, right? It could be that their intention might not even be like in a bad way to like truly harm her. So it's important to just talk with them like, hey, what you did is wrong. There are specific consequences of what like your actions could lead to. And so in that case, I think the situation could be even better if I just had left it alone and just not cared, because in that case the situation would be like terrible, right? Because the woman would be continually be harassed online.
Okay, thank you. So you're saying just watchful and then take action.
Yeah.
Be alert and then take action. So Sid, tomorrow's world is for those kids whose attitude towards money and technology is in the forefront. Do you agree with that? And what is your attitude towards technology and money?
So I think this kind of goes off the previous question that you asked, Suraj, off social media and whatnot. And I think my generation, and like our generation as a whole, the kids are very enticed by social media posts of how celebrities and wealthy people are living and the luxuries they're going through. And obviously on social media, the trend is people put their best version of themselves online, and that's very enticing to people like us and makes us think that money is everything, that it's supposed, money is the goal, money is the only goal, and for us, if we get money, we can live like them. And I'm aware of that, and obviously money has so many benefits. So I think it's a big factor in as a motivation in life for a lot of people. And technology is just right there with it, and technology is growing every day, and they are complementary, they go hand in hand. So we see if someone can innovate something or optimize a process or a product, money usually follows, and they're really correlated. So I think that we've done, I don't know if it was innately or not, but our generation has been able to fasten, and we're really equipped to technology, and we're really blessed to be able to find it very convenient. And I think that if we hone it and process those technological skills in the right way, then I think money should follow. But everyone should be mindful and just mindful about the pros and cons of both technology and money as a whole, and how either of those should not dictate our total drives in life. So I think, yeah.
So follow your passion or follow the money?
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Okay. The right thing to say in front of everybody in the cameras is follow your passion. But No, I mean, honestly, the greatest, I truly believe that if you follow your passion, that you'll receive happiness, and happiness trumps money tenfold by however many and or however much. And I think that that's far more important. Happiness is far more important than any monetary value. So I think that following your passion should be emphasized over following money.
Very nice. And so just using an iPhone from morning to night, is that technological savvy, or there's much beyond in technology?
I think that just using an iPhone, personally for me, I think just it depends on what we use for what we use our iPhones for. I think that when I was growing up, my mom told me two things. Don't ever talk to, like when I was younger, don't talk to any strangers, and especially don't go into their cars. And we collectively as a generation, we've completely disregarded both of those rules, and we're not only talking to people online through our iPhones and social media, but we're going into their cars via Uber. We're staying at random people's houses via Airbnb. And I think, I think that, I think when you have different applications and different venues on your iPhone to use and just grow, and I think just adapt to the changing world, I think that's being tech savvy, and using what you have on your iPhone properly or actively is tech savvy. I think just texting and calling is not tech savvy, but actually using the given.
Let me follow up on that because you brought it up. The online scammers, how are adults are not protected. Adults fall prey to it every day, and we call ourselves smart and wise. Are teenagers protected? Are you protected?
I think definitely if we were to compare someone, compare a teen to, compare a teen who's active on social media to an adult who isn't as active, I think the teen is definitely more trained in today's society to see what seems sketchy and what is true. And I think definitely we have that advantage over the older generations. But no, I think that even if something is masked to the best of its ability, there's that one flaw behind social media, which is we don't know exactly what's on the other end of that screen. So obviously it goes both ways, I think.
Okay, great, thank you. And so Gabby, I want you to watch my head and tell me what I mean, okay?
Oh, that's yes, right? Yeah. No, that's, I don't know. That's yes, and this is no.
Okay, so what I was coming to is that's the Indian head shake, right? So you heard about it. Okay, good. So you knew about it. What I was coming to is the cultural issues and the cultural norms that we gather from our parents and neighbors and just our family generation. How important is it not just for parents to understand our cultural norms, but the professionals to understand your cultural norms? Because many a times I've shaken my head in a professional environment where the CEOs are sitting and they go like, what is she saying? Yeah. It's just something I couldn't stop. Why is it important for professionals to understand that you come from cultural norms? In our society, we've been told not to see eye to eye. Mm-hmm. Physical touch is not appreciated much. Mm-hmm. How important is it for the professionals to know that?
Okay. So I think a lot of what you were talking about is forms of communication, and communication is the most important element of just interacting with other people and of leadership. So when there's a discrepancy in the way we're communicating, and there's like not an understanding in how we're trying to interact, that's definitely difficult, and it impedes working together as a team in many ways. So in my culture, in Hispanic culture, we hug and kiss all the time. So it's very much a physical, we're very loud, show up late everywhere, all the time. I texted her, I was like, I'm like 10 minutes away, I'm like gonna be here really soon. But yes, so I definitely understand and can relate in some ways how it can be difficult to adapt into the corporate environment. But I think that, trying to express those differences ahead of time and also being proactive. So, if you're going to be late somewhere, sending a text message always helps. And if there is a problem, especially if you're in a leadership position, try to understand where your employees are coming from and where the people that you work with are coming from, and be graceful. Have grace for them and be willing to understand their perspectives too.
Very nicely said. Thank you so much. So Hemal, the busyness of our lives, especially the parents, right? No one taught me parenting skills, and I don't think anyone taught you parenting skills. No one has gone to Mount Everest and said, hey, how did I get here, right? They must have trained and planned and prepared, and they got there. So do we intentionally and deliberately learn parenting skills?
No.
Like Saket said, we don't want them to create a worse world for them because of us.
Well, no. I don't think parenting skills are learned. They come purely from just one perspective, which is love for your child. When you love your child, you want to keep that relationship solid. When you want to keep that relationship solid, every decision that you take will kind of follow along those lines automatically. You want to develop a sense of trust. You want them to tell you the secrets. You want to keep those secrets, so you prove to them that you can keep those secrets. And you want them to know that, hey, pretty much everything is still okay. I'm cool. I can hear you out, and I can kind of sort of understand where you're coming from. So I think that relationship that needs to be built with our teenagers. I still text in full sentences, and she replies to me in words. So I'm still learning. So that gap is still there. But I do understand that they need to be on social media. They need to be there because I may not like it, but I need to understand that my kids are living in that environment where there is peer pressure to maintain that environment. So for me to sit at home and not be in their environment and tell them, no, you can't do this, it's not going to work. So there is a little bit of understanding that needs to be there. And what parenting skills are is there is no magic mantra. It is basically what works between you, your child, your family, because every child is different. My magic mantra for my son is different from what it is for my daughter. So it really depends on family to family, personal experiences, what she is experiencing, what my son is experiencing, versus where I come from, what my experiences are. So it's very individual, but it's driven by literally just one thing, is to keep it going with your child. That's it.
So there are two ways we've sort of not learned, but come with parenting skills. One is we've learned our parents raise us, and we've seen some things that they did, and we follow that. Another approach is, I'm never going to do what my mom or dad did to me, right?
Yes.
So what are your thoughts on that? Is that how you see parents raising our kids now?
Well,
and why is it important to
No, the way
invest?
I see it is, our parents never had the kind of problems that are there in society these days. So they raised us according to what norms were existent at that time. So what we are facing, the way I see it is, we are facing a whole new environment. For us, we never even knew that there were bad words in existence. We never knew that there was social media. That we never knew that there were drugs. These things were absolutely non-existent. So our parents, to even compare our parents' parenting and even take cues from them, I think is really off the chart, because we are faced with a very different environment, and we have to see what it is with us. And what it is with us is definitely not the same with our next door neighbor. So to get caught up in this rat race and to compare ourselves or our children to our neighbor's children is, I think, not a path to success is what I'm thinking. And yeah, I think.
Okay, so let me give you an example that happened this morning and tell me if I was right or wrong. So I was making dosa for my daughter this morning and she had it with sambar, right? And then I asked her, do you want me to heat the chicken curry along with the dosa? And dosa is like a crispy batter morning dish for South Indians. And she said, Mom, for the last time I told you I don't like curry. And then I go in my mind, but sambar is curry. And I didn't say that. I just gave myself a pat. I said, I'm not going to irritate her. And I left it at that. So do you think I was right?
Yes, absolutely. I think you were.
She knows it now, but
no, that is a part of being a teenager. To get upset about little things is something. I think they are, to be very fair to you kids, you all are dealing with a lot. Because when we were growing up, we dealt with half of the stuff, not even half. But you guys are going through so much, and their brain is so filled with so many combinations of,
success, peer pressure.
Yes, peer pressure, friends, what they are thinking, everything is always related to their friends group. And now with, the iMessaging going on, friends know things even before we know things. So that's pretty much the norm. So and it's, when you think about it that way, you can't even blame them for being short sometimes. And that's okay. But if that becomes way too much of a habit, you got to say, okay,
Time off.
yeah, time, yes. So, yeah.
Very
Does
nice.
that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much, Hemal. So these are like some of the true or false questions, and I want each of you to participate on it. And you all can say true or false. You don't have to keep your hands up. So true means raise your hands, okay? So we just want to see how the teenagers versus adults think. Should teenagers be given more freedom? Should teenagers obey their parents all the time? Yes, no, or true, false? Yes, no? Yes is raise hands. So let's do this. Should teenagers be given more freedom? Adults do.
You know what? I know it's a short answer, yes or no, but there's a time really we have to. Sometimes I just want to make a little quick point. When you're talking about.
Can you use your mic?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you can sit. Yeah.
I just want. Sometimes as you all had a smart panel over here. I agree. I learned a lot from you all, but what it is that you're going to get at some point. We thought when you were a kid, we thought my parents weren't right, but sometimes we look back and say sometimes they were right. They were not always wrong all the time, And when you come to my age, you're going to say the same thing. You might not agree. So there's a time you have to listen. You have to listen to your parents. They were right. They're not wrong all the time. There should be some freedom. Follow your dream. Do whatever you like to do, but with the respect. Don't think that your parents are wrong all the time. They're right too. Maybe not all the time, but most of the time. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so let me follow up with this question. Should teenagers obey their parents all the time? And he just gave you a lecture on it. You say yes or no? Okay, the lecture didn't work. So now we know. No, it's good. We have to say what we think is right. Okay, so this is a good one. When I'm talking to my parents, sometimes I have to censor what I'm saying. That means block what I'm saying. Just not tell them a lot about it, because then they get too inquisitive. Give them an inch and they will walk all over you. Oh, Rati, smile? Yes or no? It's true. So you would censor really some of the things, so you'll just keep that distance? Oh, wow. Yeah, Sid?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a time to censor, but I don't think you should censor everything, because there's definitely some things that they can help you out with if you tell them everything, so yeah.
Okay, so don't expect, so just say yes or no or true or false. Don't expect us to see the world the way you do, just like we don't expect you to see the world like us. Let us experiment. Guys, learn something from these kids tonight. Perhaps one of the reasons adults shy away from more connection to teens is the public view of adolescents as disrespectful, spoiled, poorly behaved, disaffected, and sometimes violent. Is that true? It's false? Okay. So this is basically for the adults. Perhaps one of the reasons adults shy away from more connections to teens in the public is because they feel adolescents or teenagers are disrespectful and poorly behaved. No? Okay, sounds good. You've just got to let me be me. Okay. You don't understand me. It's not like when you were a kid.
This is true for us. When we were teenagers, this was true for us.
Definitely. Do you, one of you want to give example for that? Where you recently talked to your parents and said, just let me be, or you're not going to understand because you're not a kid? Any examples recently with your parents, Suraj? You didn't have to say that. They understand you, that means. Use the mic.
Yeah, my mom and dad are.
And there are some seats. There are some seats in front. So if you want to come sit in the front. And there's still some chai and snacks in the kitchen. And we're going to break in 5 to 7 minutes for the next session. So we're going to go on a break after some time. Yes.
So can I answer like why I said so? Like I think the one time that like truly happened was I was studying my elective for freshman year, and my parents were like wanted me to do something more like things like band, like science Olympiad, academic bowl. But I was based on like what my brother did. I was really interested in like things like politics and things like that. So I wanted to do debate. And my parents were like, oh, but like things like science and academic will be extremely helpful for you in the future as well. But as someone who talks a lot and is really interested in what's happening around me, especially when it comes to current events, I said, Mom and Dad, let me be me. I'm gonna do debate. And it worked out. So like my parents love that I'm interested in politics, and we have good discussions now. So I think it works out for the best sometimes when you tell your parents that you want to be yourself.
Okay, sounds good. So let me ask this quickly. It's a one-word or two-word answer. When is the right age to date? Hemal, I'll start with you.
When they finished studying and gotten into a good college.
So that would be like 19, 20?
Yeah, 80, yeah, at least, yeah.
19? Okay.
Gosh, that's a hard
now
question.
Let's hear from...
I want to pick my child's husband. I don't think she'll allow me. So, but no, yes, I would say, study. This is your job right now. I always tell all my kids, eat well, sleep well, study well, and play well. And that's your job as a child. When you grow up and you get into a good college, I think then you get the right, or you have earned it. Let me put it that way.
Okay, so let's hear from Gabby. What's the right age to date?
So I don't think there's a correct answer to this question, but I think that it's okay for students to date while they're in high school, because that's where they learn a lot of things about themselves. So just like you're learning, subjects in your classes, you're learning the type of people you want to be around with. So having some experience, before it matters, is helpful for some of us, like learning how to build relationships and what you like in people and what you're looking for will help you pick the right person later on.
But wouldn't those things happen in a friendship?
This is true, yes.
Yes, but those things can be explored as in a friendship.
You just heard one and you have questions. Let's hear from all. Go ahead, Sid.
I completely second Gabby, completely.
Suraj.
Yeah, I would agree with Gabby for sure. That's like clean answer.
I'm not going to let you second. Go ahead. You have to say something.
Okay, I definitely say I agree with Gabby, but it also like what you don't want in a person too. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. What's the right age to date?
Yeah, Gabby definitely.
Gabby?
But yeah, basically what Gabby said is definitely true. You want to experiment when you're younger, so you know in the future what you want in the person and what you don't want.
Yes, I think
yeah,
so. Okay, Eliza?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Gabby because I think we are supposed to be studying, we are supposed to be learning about academic things at this point in our life, but we're also supposed to be learning about ourselves and what we want for our life. And part of that is relationships, and it is who we choose to be around. So if we can learn it now, it can help us in the future.
Sure.
Well, like everybody else, I agree with Gabby. Yes, I do. I found that a lot of people, they know their kids, so when they think they're mature enough to handle a serious relationship, then they allow them to date. So I can't say that what goes for one goes for everybody. So I say when you're mature enough and you're ready to handle something like that, then we should let them go and explore.
Go ahead, Rossi. Do you have any opinion on what's the right age?
I agree with Gabby.
Okay, sounds good. Senator?
Well, everybody's.
You were saying you're
Gabby
gonna say
said- So what can I say? But I'm going to say not everybody's mature enough. At certain age, I'm not going to say high school, whatever it is. But make sure you should be your education to be first. Don't put your relationship first. Then you'll be successful. If you keep your education your goal, what you want to do, follow your dream, and that will going to come. That will going to come. It's not necessarily just because you date someone you're going to learn everything. Life, no. That's my that's my short answer. So follow your dream. That will going to come. Okay.
Sounds good. And we're going to talk about it more in the second session between relationships and what teaching does school teaches about relationships. So we're going to definitely talk about that further in our second session. But while you have the mic, Senator, we have 5 more minutes, and I want you to, and I know it's such a short session, we just had overwhelming response, and I wanted to make sure we get all the kids inside for the first and the second session. So give us your concluding thoughts for the panel. Basically, we owe it to the kids and the adults, and they owe it to each other to hear and listen to each other, to understand and respect and love, to live in harmony and peace. But many things we wish it doesn't happen. Every parent I know has had threats that, I'm gonna have a teenager next year. I'm raising a teenager. So guys, and that's true, right? So what are your concluding thoughts for the panel?
My conclusion as a parent myself, we need to let our children follow their dream. That's what in our tradition, we all want our sons or daughters go to be a doctors or engineers, if everybody become doctors, engineers, who's going to take care of the other stuff? Who's going to be teachers? So you're going to follow your dream, whatever you're good at it, as long as you're successful, a decent human being, that's more important than money and everything else. Life is short. Life is very short, I came to this country, 38 years ago. I still think that was just that day, Now, I have a daughter in college, and I have a son, in elementary school. But anyway, the thing is, I never told my daughter, I told this, go and get education that where you can be employable. I don't want you to get out of college and say, Dad, I need to stay. I don't mind. My daughter comes and stay with me, that's fine, But they should be employable, and they should enjoy what they do. That's more important. And we have to give our kid a little space too, And for the children, what I'm going to say, don't hide anything from your parents, good or bad, share with them. That's more important. Because your parents want good for you. All of us, we want good for our children. What it is, be open. Even if you make a mistake, even if you're wrong sometimes, they can correct you. They're not going to give you bad advice. None of the parents I have seen so far, we might not be correct all the time, but we'll not give, by knowingly, none of us, I think we're going to give our children in bad advice. So be a friendly. Your parents could be a friend too, and that'll be more beneficial, that'll be more beneficial. One more thing I want to pitch in, we have a lot of parents over here. If any of you want to do a page at the Capitol, our session will be until April 2nd. If you're during the break, I'll give you all my card. If you're in middle school, even in high school, in junior, something you want a page, send an email, and I'm going to send you a form, whatever it is. Come, and that will going to help you in the long run. When you go to university or apply for the college stuff, if you page someone for Senate, whoever, you don't have to for me. For interested, get in touch with me, and I'll be glad to help you out.
Thank you so much, Senator, for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you have a 11-year-old sitting next to you, and I was surprised that her purpose in life is to enjoy life, which I'm glad I'm learning as a mom something, and I'm going out today. So thank you so much, Senator. So Rossi, do you have any thoughts to tell all of us? You're good. So she was like, can I text while I'm on the panel? I'm like, no, you can't text. Do you want to, so tell us something about how important it is to spread love and unity based on your wisdom. Why is it important to spread love than hatred?
Because not, like, some people might not feel loved, but when you, like, spread love, that makes them feel happier because they know, like, someone's there for them and care about them and will be there for them if they need, like, help.
So love is always better than hate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Rossi, for being here this evening. And so, Catherine, what are your concluding thoughts for the panel?
I will conclude that even though we're all different ages here, it's amazing to see how we often share the same ideas and values, the same thoughts. I think that people too often underestimate people because of their age. We think that they can't do something, that they'll never know how to do something, that they'll never master something. And this really proved that that's not true, that we're all still human beings with thoughts and feelings, and we all share something, common sense.
Thank you so much. Yes, go ahead, Eliza.
I agree with her. I think this opportunity was amazing. And I think it really showed us how similar we are, not how different we are. And I think that's really important to show between the two generations.
Great, and best of luck with your political aspirations or political administrative, your wishes. Yeah, go ahead, Nikita.
Well, I just want to say that I've learned so much from this panel and just seeing everyone's different perspectives on just such simple, like oh, love marriage or arranged marriage. Like, who would have thought that like someone like me might have been like something had a different perspective than like an adult, you know? So just little things like that, like, really broadened my perspective on the world. So I wanted to thank you personally for that.
Thank you, Nikita. We appreciate your input as well. Saket, your let's here.
Okay. Thank you for the session, because like now that I know, like, okay, don't just like say your point. Listen to what they have to say, then argue if you want to, and then make your decision. Yeah. And then I saw the similarities, like she said again. Yeah. And the differences. Thank you.
Great job, Saket. Thank you.
So based on like the discussion that we've all had, I think the like overall message that like that's really like that I've taken from this is that the gap between the newer generation and the current generation, it needs to be more connected. Just because the newer generation of itself is our future, but we can only become the best future we can is by the help of previous generations, which I've learned like a lot from this, and that will definitely like help for all of us teenagers in the future.
Great job, Suraj. Thank you.
So going into this panel, I thought there was going to be huge like starch differences between the different ages of the panelists, but I think that that completely changed after the first round of questions. I think we all agreed on a lot of different things that I personally didn't think we would agree on, and it was a great discussion to just hear everyone's ideas and different voice their opinions, and it was great. So I think it was a wonderful experience to
Great,
get
Sid.
that.
Thank you. Gabby?
So I think that many of us feel that we're in a very divided country right now in a lot of ways. And I think that these are the types of conversations we need to be having, between people of different ethnic backgrounds, between different ages, different religions. And I just want to say that I'm very thankful to be here, that you allowed me to come and share my stories, and I loved hearing everybody else's stories. And I think we all learned that, love and kindness is what is core to most people's beliefs. And I just feel very loved here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabby. Hemal?
I'm very impressed by our youngsters here. They're smart, the answers have been spot on. And I think a lot of it has to do with the exposure that these children have had the opportunity to get. I encourage every child to go out, explore the world, see different cultures, see different people across the world. learn about learn the spectrum of income, learn the spectrum of inequality, and just don't restrict yourself. Just wherever it takes you, go there, learn, and hopefully you'll turn your passion into something that makes you a lot of money.
And
so yes,
and don't date before 20.
I'm sorry?
Don't date before 20.
Well,
I'm just teasing you.
See, no, it's not that. Don't date before 20. Yeah, don't date before 20. Don't date before 20. Have best friends. Go on a cruise together. Have fun. But don't date before 20. It's okay. But that's okay. But if it happens, hey, we're here to bridge the gap, so it's okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Hemal. Thank you. So I'd like to thank each one of you for taking the time and being here this evening. And we're going to go on a break for 10 minutes, and please grab tea. So we continue with our second session with new set of panelists and more deeper questions that we've not covered on finances and responsibilities and other stuff. And what I want to, two things that happened for this session compared to the other session. One, we didn't get to go to the big banquet hall because it was already booked, but the space seems to be very convenient for many, so we still made this happen. And we had to work out the space, but we made it happen. And the second thing we've done new is we're supporting small businesses this evening. Usually when I have to pick gifts for the panelists, I go to a department store and get something and pack it and give it. But this time what I've done is approach the small businesses that I didn't even know they had the small business, but they are small business owners. And I said, if I can go give the money every month to the department store, I want to be able to support you today. So I gave it to them, and they are offering the gifts. So we have different gifts from different business owners. And it feels good because the same amount you're spending on our families who are living nearby. And that's how we support and encourage small business owners. And we'll talk about that as well in the second session about entrepreneurs. And so we have different gifts for girls. And if Vidhu's daughter literally picked up the gifts, so Vidhu, and after that we're going to get a group picture, of course, but Vidhu's daughter, I don't know your name. Bhakti? Bhakti. Oh, Bhakti. I love Bhakti. So Bhakti is going to hand the gifts to the girls first. So she picked it up herself. And you want to get up and pick up the gifts. And I'm going to get the boys' gifts from the... Thank you. So we have one for you. Oh, so that's for the girls. The girls, yeah. That's for the adults. Don't worry. Yes. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So more's coming. Hold on. I'm making sure I'm getting it right because it's like we got it from 3 different business owners this time. So here, and where's the other guy? That's all, guys. Okay, so you all got, and Senator. Thank you so much for being here. We'll just get a group picture, and we can break up for the break. And please grab tea, and of course you'll get to speak with the panelists as well. So thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed the first session, and as the others are coming to be seated, we would like to get started on our second session. And don't leave yet because towards the end, around 6:30, there is a surprise performance. You guys are going to enjoy it. And so that's a special treat for all of us, I believe so. And quickly, from my right, I'd like to introduce Apurva, and of course you will see their bios and profiles running in the background, and you can read about them. Just for the interest of time, we are trying to quickly introduce the names. And we have Shakti, we have Valen, thank you so much for being here, Omer, and thank you. And we have Aryan, thank you Aryan for being here, Anjali, Kriti, I got your name right. I think last time I said Kirti. And Amshu, we could call you Amshu, right? Okay, great. And Madhu, thank you for being here. And Uncle Bajaj, thank you so much for being here. Your perspective is very important. I think from everything we've discussed today, you are going to bring a perspective of what life has all been about. So thank you for being here and taking time this evening. And like our previous session, this is a starter question. Apurva, I'd like to start with you. What is the best thing that has ever happened to you? And you can, yes, use the mic, and you have to switch it on, yes.
Hi everyone, thank you. First of all, big round of applause for Nazira. I think she's really doing a phenomenal job putting together this dialogue, and I've been very excited to sponsor today's event. So to answer your question, Nazira, I would say that one of the biggest and the best things that has happened to me is just migrating to US, as that was a big milestone for me. And that was a result of a adversity I faced in India to really struggle and make a change in my life. And I would say that adversity is definitely one of the biggest drivers, and that's the best thing that happened to me.
Thank you, very well said, Apurva. And Shakti, you are the youngest panel this time.
Yes.
And if I gave you, which is hypothetical, $10,000 to you, what would you do?
I would definitely donate some of it because I don't need that much currently. I'm in a very good position, and sometimes we need to give what we don't need to other people, like was said in the previous panel. But I think I would definitely donate some of it, and I would save some of it for college and anything like that, but I wouldn't spend it all, definitely.
Very well said, Shakti. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Apurva, and thank you for that pitch. And Valen, what have you learned recently from another person?
Actually, I learned something very recently from another person a couple of minutes ago. I was talking with a panelist from the previous session, and I was talking to Suraj.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about the importance of art in our culture and relationships between people. And I was just talking about I'm a songwriter, and I was just talking about my music, and he was kind of encouraging me to keep pursuing it and keep doing it because of the possibility that maybe something I've written, something that has happened to me, could help somebody else. I think music is a way that a lot of people cope with things. Music is a way that people use music as an outlet, as a way to deal with things that happen to them. And if I've gone through something and music was the way I got out of it, there's no way I can know whether or not that could help somebody else too. And that was something I learned and something that I'm going to take with me for, I just can't even tell you how long.
Thank you so much, Valen. Arts is very important indeed. And Omer, what family function do you like most, and what do you like least? Would you have a different answer if your parents weren't sitting here?
Probably not. I don't think so. I think that probably for Eid, not many of you, I don't know how many of you are Muslims here, but I'm a Muslim, and I'm also an Indian, so we have these huge extravagant parties for Eid that we'll have once every couple of years or once every year. And my parents will invite all of their friends, my friends. They'll cook delicious food, and I think that's probably one of my favorite family functions, occasions, I think. And one of my least favorite occasions, I guess there's not really many occasions that I don't think I despise with my family, because any time you get to spend with your family is probably a really great time, and you should be able to cherish that. But probably the least favorite is the birthdays of my sisters. I have 3 sisters, so I had to go through 3 birthdays every single year, and unfortunately, they're not my birthdays, so I have to give presents. I don't get any presents. I think those are probably my least favorite family functions.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Aryan, what is the most important thing in your life you have and why?
Well, there are a lot of important things in my life. There are a lot of important things in many people's lives. But probably the most important thing would be people who can guide you to the future. Because you're just one person in this world. You won't know the harshness of reality. So people who can guide you throughout life will always be important to you, so you can be successful.
Great, thank you so much. Well said. So, Ansley, I think we just have to switch. Yes, it's on. So, what is the most important thing that a mother can give to her children, and what's the most important thing that a father can give to his children?
I think for my family, the most important thing my parents both gave me was confidence, and I think that's very important for today's world. There's a lot of criticism on social media, as I said in the last session, a lot of peer pressure, but if you have confidence in yourself and what you believe in, things like that, then you're more likely to be able to stand up for what you believe and not succumb to the peer pressure.
Great, thank you. So, Kriti, when was the last time you admitted you were wrong? Never, probably never. I'm just kidding.
Wow, okay.
And why is it hard to admit?
Sure. So I think the last time I admitted I was wrong was probably, my parents are sitting right here, but probably to my parents. I can't remember one off the top of my head, but I mean, I'm sure I've done something wrong. And I've said something about it. So I think the reason why it's so hard to say why, like to admit why you're wrong, is because, I mean, as it's human nature to be a little bit proud. So to admit that you're wrong and have to just basically change everything that you've done it's difficult.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, great. Thank you, Kriti. So, Amshu, what is wrong with United States and why? And you don't have to agree anything is wrong. You have the choice.
I think we're a little too concerned with politics and what divides us, as opposed to what we can do to come together. And sometimes we end up too entrenched in our own beliefs without trying to see the other side of things and see how other people think and why they think that way. I think that, of course, the media is contributing to that, but we're also contributing to that by not searching for anything else other than what we want to hear a lot of times. So we need to work on that, and I think if we do, then we can have more discussions, more productive discussions about what needs to be done.
So when there are, well said. So as you said, when there are those unproductive discussions, do you linger around or you just walk out?
Well, sometimes I do linger around because, as Kriti said, it's kind of hard to admit you're wrong, and when people are talking about things that you disagree with, you tend to try to defend your position. And but I do try my best to see why other people think that way and come to terms with that. Try to understand why they think that way. See, see any similarities between our positions. Try to find a compromise. So,
great.
I mean, it's not good to walk away from them, of course, because if you try to stay and find a compromise, eventually you can work something out.
Great, thank you, Amshu. So, Madhu, it's so nice to see you here sitting together. Madhu used to be an intern with me when I was in Fulton County, so nice to see you grow. But Madhu, what has been that one time in life that has worried you the most?
So this happened pretty recently.
Can you?
Okay, so I have a 19-month-old son who was diagnosed with Down syndrome at birth. So that was probably something that changed everything in our life. It worried me a lot. If you ask me, yes, that was something that worried me about the uncertainty of the future, about what's going to happen next. How are we going to deal with this? How the family is going to cope with this, whether he'll survive. So those were the things. I think that was the so far, and I hope it never happens again. That was the only day when I worried the most.
And I think you sort of answered the question. Does the worry still continue as much with that much intensity?
No, not at all. So, as days went by, and as I've learned more about this, there's not that much to worry about. So yes, there's still some uncertainties because we don't know much about a lot of things, and I have uncertainties for my other child too. I don't know the future, but the worry has definitely lessened a lot.
Great. So, Bajaj, tell me, what is life all about? And if we can hold the mic near so people can hear you.
Well, it's very difficult for me to say. I'm a little bit on the shy side. I generally don't talk in public like this. The life is a very funny thing. How you take it is up to you. You can learn from everybody, but you can do what you feel like doing it. When I left India, I left just for 30 days, that I'll just go for vacation and come back because it used to get very hot and I used to get sick in that heat with my eyes boiling up. So I went to see my sister in Kabul, and guess what? Very second day I got a job offer. I was doing very well in Delhi itself, but I said, okay, if the life is trying to give me change, I'm going to change. And when I was working for USAID, my auditor general, he came, he said, what are you doing here? Why don't you go to US? I said, I don't have the qualification. I don't have the high qualification. I'm not a master of anything. I'm not a doctor. So he says, I'll fix that for you. And he did. And we are here. So it's all destiny. Whatever way you look at it, life is a destiny. Whatever is destined for you is going to happen. You can do whatever you want to do rightly. But my belief is, sooner or later, your destiny is going to take over. And that's my belief.
So, so tell us, will worries make our problems go?
No worries will ever make anything go. It's going to happen, whatever is going to happen. But you cannot give up. God has given you life to fight it, not to give up. But whatever is going to happen, you can't stop it. You can pray for it. Generally, prayer does work. It may not work very long way, but it does work. I know it works for me. For 14 months, my wife was given life because of my prayers. Three doctors told her she has only 1 week to go. She lived 14 months. And that was my prayer and my son's prayer. So that's my belief.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So can Catherine and the team hear us over there? Can you hear us well? Okay, good. And Catherine, I just request you, if there's too much noise coming from there, if you can just tell them to keep it low. Okay? Sounds good. So Purva, formal education, how important is it, right? And as far as I know, what I studied in physics, inertia and all that, and biochemistry on the chemicals, I don't know if it has been of use. Sometimes I wish formal education had taught me more to manage life, to figure out people, to learn human relations. It didn't. So we several times bump our heads. So how important a formal education is. And I also want to touch base on, so what about those dropouts who became good CEOs?
Thank you. I'd love to walk into this one. So I would say number one, back in the time, and as we talk about perspectives of yesterday, right? The way current education system has been structured is for the masses, right? And it doesn't work for everybody, because what happens is folks sitting on this panel, right? If you look at them, right? Really, really smart people. But each one of them are individually very, very different and unique in their own selves, right? And so as you look at the mass sort of education systems, it's for the masses. We've not changed that and evolved that even for jobs of today, let alone jobs of tomorrow, right? So even at my workplace I see today, I work at Pfizer, and most of the challenges I see in my team right now are that they are phenomenal engineers, right? They're one of the smartest engineers that you can find. But the job, day-to-day job, and the struggle that I have with the team is, lack of ability to work well with one another, developing good team culture, right? We were all taught as adults back in the time to work individually and strive and be good in math, be good in science, be good in our own skills, but not really work in teams collaboratively, right? Along with that, I would say that even for times of today, really the skill set that is acquired has changed tremendously. So in the tech world, and some of us over here from software world are here, right? Your GitHub score, where you store your code, is way more sometimes important than your little degree that you're waving off, right? And that is the reason why today you see Sundar Pichai and folks of that caliber and the Bill Gates of the world really out there, because they've been able to really go out and go get education quickly and applied it for solving real-time problems, right? And to layer one more thing on top, right? It boils down to your core skills, and core skills that we talk about today somehow still lack soft skills, right? What about communication? What about non-verbal communication? What about non-violent communication, right? What about collaboration? What about leadership skills? These are not the skills being taught in schools today, so we really need a lot of work to be done, as not only as educators, but even as parents, to go that extra mile and bring those skills into our kids.
Great. Thank you so much, Apurva. And Shakti, we just talked about, so suppose you are the boss and two candidates are coming to interview. One is nicely dressed up with suit and tie, and one is just wearing their jeans and shirt. So why do we go based on looks, on the decisions we make? And I would love to know whom you choose as a candidate, of course, after interviewing. But tell me about stigma at a younger age. Have you seen people getting discriminated based on looks or based on their communication style or based on anything? And is it right? What I'm trying to get to is, how do you fight stigma from younger age?
So,
and not judge others.
Yeah. Actually, I have seen a lot of stigma because people always have a way of seeing others. You could see someone who was dressed up super shaggy and just really tattered clothing, and he could just be going to get some milk, but you would probably be like, oh, that person looks so scary, he's like this and that. But you don't know. You never know. He could be the CEO of some really big company. And that's why everyone has told me you have to be well presented, because people, no matter how much you say don't judge a book by its cover, they don't listen. I found even myself, sometimes I'm like, oh, look, that guy has a beard, he's so scary. But but you can't judge people unless you know them, which is a mistake we make a lot. And people, they even that's why I feel you have to be well presented, but I feel you have to judge people based on how they are. That doesn't mean go around talking to strangers who are not well dressed and be like, I want to get to know you, because you never know. But it's just, you should not. And I found a way to avoid the stigmatism, because you have to understand that you are your own individual, and your friends are not going to judge you. Whoever does judge you, and they're not your so-called friends, you have to be with that one person who understands your style and your uniqueness, because that's you. You can't be anyone else because you're you. So
basically you're saying if you were in a group and there was a judgmental conversations going on, would you stop them and question out the logic reason, or would you say it's not my business?
I would stop them, definitely, because I feel we should always spread happiness and acceptance of others, because we're all so different in this world, and there are so many different trends, styles, and you can't ever pinpoint one as the right one, because there is no right one. We're all individual, and we have our own styles. Some people may think it's right, some people may think it's wrong. You should not judge people who are wearing what they wear, who are doing what they do, because that's them. This is you. If it doesn't affect you, you don't need to go and judge people about it.
Great, thank you so much, Shakti. Great job. And so, Valen, usually when I ask my kids, one is between and the other is in a teenager, and so, how was your school? Good. So, how was this? Good. How was that? Good. So usually I've seen teenagers respond with one-word answers, and I'm sure there's other ways for me to bring out more in them, but you are here, the adults are here. Tell us what is the most effective way of opening to teenagers to get to talk more, of course through mutual respect, but what are the ways that an open dialogue can exist between adults and teens? Because it's either only the teens or it's only the adults. It's very hard to see both of them mix.
That's a really great question. So I'm guilty of the same thing. Sometimes when I come home and my mom asks how was school, I say fine, or I say good, or whatever. And I've actually recently been thinking about that and how she probably wants to know a little bit more than good or a little bit more than fine. And two ways I immediately think of, because like I said, I've been thinking about it on how to bridge that gap and how to open up the communication, is ask specific questions. Not how was your day, but what was the best thing that happened to you today? What's something you learned today? What was the worst thing that happened to you today? Like what made you smile instead of how was it? So that there's less of an opportunity for them to be like good, fine, bad. You want to ask something enriching and something that makes them think. And also, I think there's a leadership expert. His name is Dr. Tim Elmore. He wrote the Habitudes book series. And one of the Habitudes was about how people always look for things that involve them. I think human beings are naturally a little bit self-centered, just a little bit. You just want to know what's in it for you sometimes. And I think people are more inclined to share things about themselves when you have shared it about yourself, because they can relate to that. They can see they have a way to relate it to what they've experienced and what they've been through when you've shared and when you've been vulnerable with them. So maybe when they walk in the door, instead of how was your day, tell them a little bit about your day. Tell them a specific story or event that made you feel some way. Maybe that'll remind them of something else, and it'll open maybe even a deeper dialogue than you had ever expected. If you're willing to share and be open, they'll see maybe something similar in themselves and be able to be there with you and open that dialogue with you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Valen. And so, Omer, whenever we talk about bullying, it sort of be related to online bullying, forgetting that there's real bullying that goes on day-to-day life as well, in schools, outside of schools. While this is America and we all believe in our First Amendment and freedom of speech, and I know you are a good debater, so that's why I put this question for you, does it give rights on the basis of First Amendment to bully others? Is it okay to wear a controversial T-shirt that says something offensive and sort of express their opinion? Is it okay to threaten the others, either females or males, posting videos online? How do you tackle those type of bullyism?
I definitely have a lot of experience with this question, not personally, but like you said, through my debate and through my academics, especially right now since I'm taking AP US Government. And we've actually talked about this question quite a bit in our class. It's legally, I'm going to first talk about the legal implications. Legally, you technically are allowed, there's a lot of leeway in the United States about what you're able to say and what you're able to do to others. And I think that in some ways that has made America a much more freer country than the rest of the world. But in itself, it also has some definite harms. Like you said, we've seen that in America, there's much higher prevalence of bullying, whether it be in person or online. And I think that legally, such bullying should not be allowed. But there are certain, like, in the law does back this up. There's a recent Supreme Court case, not recent, that it's quite a while ago, over 100 years ago, I believe, Schenck v. U.S., and it talks about how you're not actually allowed to speak any words, or that's going to prevent a clear and present danger. So there is definitely, although in the United States it may seem like, there's no restrictions whatsoever on bullying, you can say whatever. I think that legally there is restrictions, that the United States is not as a free or open place as you might think. We still have the rule of law protecting people from bullying. And I think that in the modern age right now, one of the reasons why we think that the United States is so free, so open, and the problems with that, like cyberbullying, is because of digital technology, social media, online messaging. All these problems, all these things have really increased problems in terms of bullying and teasing online, and they've all not been able to be solved because the United States government simply cannot restrict everything that everybody says. But I think that legally the United States is attempting to do that. So I personally think that right now we are on our way to perhaps developing more solutions, and we have a legal standard against bullying.
Okay, and so do you tell your bullies, hey, according to this statute and for this policy and this law, you cannot say this to me?
Well, I try not to get bullied that much.
I mean, I'm talking about in general. What should a person do?
I think that in general, although the United States government's not just going to be there, the police aren't just going to come there as soon as you get bullied, somebody says something bad about you. But you should be able to. Everybody may not be able to do this, but we should be able to stand up for yourself and maybe include other friends, develop strong relationships with people who are not going to bully you, who are not going to harm you, who just want to make sure that you are able to reach your potential, are able to grow and, not get hurt. There's really two things that are important. You want to be able to develop important relationships with people who are not going to hurt you, and you just want to be able to have, I think somebody talked about, a confidence. You have a confidence, you have the ability to stand up for yourself and to prevent any bullying, or to make sure, stand up against bullying, whether it happens to you or whether it happens to anybody else.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Omer. So, Ari, and I'm asking this question to all of you. How many of you, when you were young, and tell me if you've done this, have taken a razor blade and put it on a railway track, and the train goes on top of it, and I believe it becomes a magnet? Have you done this? I've done it. Sabri, most of us done it. Have you ever thought about doing that?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. So what I'm getting to is technology, right? We didn't play with technology then. And we didn't know what technology was. All we knew was go wave at the train, people who were sitting in the train, and we would just wait for the train and we'd be waving. Those were simple joys for us growing up. So nowadays it's science fiction, 3D printers, and all these new technology coming up. Maybe your mom can't teach you about it because she's still wondering and learning what to do. How are you getting prepared for the future technology, or how are you tackling, or are you prepared to tackle the new technology that keeps coming every day?
Well, technology was just invented to make life easier for people. So me being brought up with a limited but substantial source of technology, it better prepares you for the future, because we don't know, we have accomplished so much over the past 20 years, 20, 30 years in the technological area, but even it's getting easier with more devices, more things that make our lives easier. We don't have to go outside our house to get food anymore. We can Uber Eats to get home. We can do anything with technology. So it's definitely gonna prepare me more for life in the future. It'll make it easier to deal with. But there are also pros and cons. Cons being you don't get to experience the real life world as much as you would. You don't get to build more open, one-on-one relationships with people. You can talk online, social media, like we've mentioned before. And even though it'll make life easier in the future, it comes at a cost. So that's why I feel like it would make life easier. It would better prepare me for the future. I would be better equipped to handle all the hardships of the future. But it still comes with a cost in the end.
Okay, let me ask you this: when is and good answer, thank you, and real answer. So when is the last time you went out and just breathed and just heard the birds singing?
I know. Well, honestly, probably yesterday.
Oh, good. Okay.
But it would, not as much as I would like to.
With no cell phone in your hand.
Yes.
Okay.
Because yesterday I was actually preparing for a robotics tournament, which was today before I came here. So yeah, when we were taking a break, and I was just like outside, just like looking. It was dark, but still, like I was just outside. It was like raining too, so I don't know why I was
With
outside.
the birds singing? Did you hear the birds?
No, because it was night and it was dark and raining. There were no birds, but like I was just outside, just staring at it, like to nothing. Anyways, my point is that I wasn't on my phone, and I'm pretty proud of that. But I still want to do more of that, like do more of it. So I'm not really that satisfied.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, Aryan. Ansley, career versus family, okay? As adults growing up, most of us were told you have to get married within this age. Your career is not important. You can just have a basic bachelor's degree and your spouse will take care of the finances. Being a lady, that means the man's spouse will take care of the finances. But the world today is completely different, right? Are we heading, how do you feel about the trend where women are thinking about family life, having kids in mid-30s? I mean, do you see that trend? Because career is more important for them. And is that the right trend that's heading towards?
I have seen that trend recently. Like even my friends, we talk more about what we're going to do with our careers versus like when we want to build our family. And it's got me thinking, especially because my parents, my mom is definitely the one who is the center of our family, and she makes sure that we're all okay while my dad goes and travels the world to try and support us. But I think that it is very important for women to build a career so that after your kids grow up, it seems that a lot of my mom's friends at least don't know what to do, and they're very like sad being empty nesters, and they're trying to fill it with something else. But instead of trying to go back to work because they feel like they've been out of the workforce for so long, they just sit at home and wait for their husband to come home, which my mom has always shown me is not the most fulfilling thing for her. And from what I can tell about my personality, I wouldn't want to do that either. So I think that building a strong career and even being able to continue that as you build your family is a very beneficial thing, especially in today's world.
And that means a person who should support your belief and vision and your aspirations.
Correct. Someone that I would want to eventually, if I do build a family, I'd like to be with someone who agrees with that and isn't going to discourage me from going after the things I enjoy doing in a professional career.
Great. Thank you so much, Ansley. So, Kriti, let's talk about financial responsibility, and not just in the terms because our parents are, of course, taking care of our kids today, but how important is it for you to learn about finances and taxes and all those things that goes from Jan to April of every year? Should that be taught in school? I mean, I wish at this point, a few years ago, I was taught in school. I was never taught about financial responsibility, the banking system, how it works, what are taxes. And so that's something that I had to keep bumping my head and learn alone, because background was medical field, so I had no idea about numbers. And I saw your aspiration to become a financial guru. What are your thoughts and for today about teenagers being financially knowledgeable and literate?
So I think that a lot of teenagers today will agree that we don't learn enough about financial responsibility, or when we do, we learn it too late. I'm learning it right now through my economics class, through macro and microeconomics, and I'm learning a lot of, so we have the stock market project going on right now, so we're learning about the stock market. I want to be an economics major, so as an economics major, I will learn all of this stuff. But as you mentioned, people who don't want to go into that field don't look at it that much. So when they are given these given bills and have to file their taxes, many times because their school doesn't teach us it, we don't know how to do it. I think that there is a push towards financial literacy today, and I think that a lot of people are trying to become more financially literate, but I think at the same time, we are a little bit sheltered. Our parents provide a lot for us, and the first time that we're going to have to be financially literate is going to be in college, when we're going to have to work
to cover our daily expenses, and after college where we're going to need to have our own apartment, have our own jobs. I think it's also the evidence of the lack of financial literacy is also seen in the student debt crisis today. A lot of students are in student debt, and it's at skyrocketing levels. There are people with $200,000, $300,000 of debt, and they're not able to pay it off for their entire lives. So I think that financial literacy, we need to start teaching it earlier, because it's showing today in a lot of people who have a lot of debt, who have a lot of student debt, that they're not sure how they can cover it up.
Okay. I was going to ask you this question, but I wasn't going to ask you, but since you mentioned it, so should teenagers work for their own allowances, starting from, whatever the legal age is? Should teenager work? Should they have a job along with going to school?
So I think having a job, it depends. If a teenager can handle it, and they can handle the pressures of school, extracurriculars, as we mentioned before, there is a lot of stuff in the schooling system that has changed too. Today, you can't get into college without having extracurriculars, internships, and doing well in your classes, taking hard, rigorous courses. So I think that if a student can handle it, they should definitely work and try to gain that financial literacy. But if they can't handle it, I would say that they should focus on school.
Great, thank you so much. So Amshu, we've been talking about this difference between adults and including myself today with the children here. So adults and kids, in many ways, psychologically and the thinking wise, the decision making, then analyzing skills for adults and children differ much. So how important is it for parents to be truthful to their children? Because back in our culture, in many cultures, we try to protect our children from any harmful information or negative information. Is that really helping the kids grow? And then it's like you're putting them into the jungle and then they face their own fears, or rather be truthful?
I think you have to be truthful, at least to a very high extent, because you have to be able to build that trust with your child. And they have to be able to say, okay, I can at least depend on my parents. Maybe not completely, but if I get into a tough spot, I know I have someone to rely on. And that, contrary to what a lot of people think, that actually makes at least me more confident in what I'm doing, because I know that if I go wrong, I have someone who's able to offer me an honest, supportive, guiding hand. So I understand that a lot of parents want to protect their children from negative information or things that they think are harmful. And sometimes that is the right choice. You don't want to expose children who are too young to some realities that they may not be ready to accept yet. But at some point, you're going to have to be truthful, and you're going to have to explain to them things that maybe you don't really want to explain, just so they can have the confidence to go out and face challenges and know that they have someone that they can rely on.
Should parents be best friends for their children?
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah?
Your parent has to be like your best friend, because you have to know that just like your best friend, they're going to do anything they can to help you. And they're going to do anything to be with you and guide you along the way.
Great, thank you. So Madhu, this is a question that has to be brought up because we are talking to that age range. And since following up on Amshu's answers as well, should parents talk to their children about sex education, or should they leave it to their educators in school? I've heard both the sides, and I would like to hear more, and I would like to give my thoughts.
So I completely agree to the fact that as parents we should start talking about sex education, or give our children sex education. I know he mentioned that at a certain age, but I personally don't know what a certain age could be. My daughter is 5 years old. She just started school. She's a kindergartner, but I feel like I should tell her, because you cannot trust anyone. Growing up, I have known that you cannot trust the people close to you the most. So my parents never taught me that these were the taboo words, and I'm not complaining, that was the trend. That was the acceptable norm during that time, that you cannot talk about sex with your children. Because of that, growing up, like most girls, I faced a lot of things, but that fear was in me. I cannot tell my parent because that's a taboo. A neighbor maybe misbehaved. I still could not tell my parents. So I don't want my daughter to face that. She should know, even when she's 5 years old, she should know what is a wrong touch. What should make you uncomfortable? When is the time you should speak out? You should stop a person. She might not understand right now, but it is always my job is to protect her, and I should start it as soon as I can, so that she doesn't face what we faced growing up. Still today, there are like numerous people who did wrongful things to us, and I'm not the only one. It has happened to my friends, my sister. I try to protect my sister and things like that, but I don't want that to happen to our next generation. So yes, sex education is very important, and it should start right at home, not wait until they are, 7 or 8. When do they start at school? So whenever they do, parents should start that at home right away.
Sounds good. So mental health and is common in all ages, but suicide seems to be the number 2 cause of death between age 12 to 18. And I'm thinking it could be peer pressure, mental illness slowly building up, that parents just shrug it off, nothing is wrong. How important is it to understand the warning signs of mental illness in kids? Because even in South Asian community, you must have heard about suicide rates really going up in adolescence.
So, what do you want me to...
How should we know the warning signs of mental illness or mental unwellness?
So if we talk about mental health, I personally haven't really seen anyone, but I know a friend who was, when we were in college, and we came back to the dormitory and we saw her lying in a pool of blood. She tried to kill herself. That was my first and thankfully the last encounter like that. I think there are warning signs like depression. If a person who is normally very chatty, mixes with everyone, is smiling, suddenly changes, there are changes in behaviors, normal day-to-day life, which might be subtle changes, but a person who is close enough will be able to notice that. Those should be red flags, and those should be pointed out. We don't want to talk about mental health again, that taboo thing. Growing up, we had a lot of taboos, which I am so glad this generation doesn't. They are aware of a lot of things, so which we were not. Yes, so you should talk about those. You should bring those topics out in front in public, discuss with the person or discuss with a medical professional, because we don't want to wait until something bad happens to really bring that out. So yes, mental health is definitely something that needs to be addressed.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Madhu. And of course, we have school counselors who are able to identify if something's wrong with, with the kid in the school, and able to communicate with parents as well. So, Uncle Bajaj ji, tell me, how did you view the world when you were a child? How do you view the world now? How do you see the teenagers viewing the world now, compared to when you were a child?
Well, growing up, it's been a very long ride. At age 10, we were displaced from one town to move to India, Indian part, because of the partition of India. So I never had the grown-up like grandmother and grandfather love and affection and the guidance that we all should have. But nobody can, like I said, I believe in destiny. If destiny is not there, you can't have it. But I personally love all the kids. That's why I gave candy to every child, because that's my love. Where it came from, I don't know. But my personal feeling is that the connection between the grandparents and grandchildren is very, very important. And that can happen only when both the sides are receptive. If the grandchild doesn't want grandparent to interfere or guide, there's nothing you and I can do about it. So that's my point of view.
Great, thank you so much, Bajajji. And I want to quickly do the yes or no answers for the next few questions. And yes and no is down, right? And I would like all of us to follow. So should parents set rules for how their teenagers dress? Yes, no, great. Okay, sounds good. Should parents be their children's best friend, which we just discussed? Omer and Aryan, why not? Yeah, why shouldn't parents be the best friends? Can you give him the mic?
Personally, I think that if you have a connection with your parents, then yes, you can, they can be your best friend. But I don't think that you should force your child to be your best friend. I don't think that your child already has a best friend, or maybe even several. Okay, you shouldn't. If he doesn't want it, then you don't have to.
Aryan?
Well, I'm sort of in the middle. It's dependent on every child. If you have parents who are supportive, if you have parents who who understand you on your young level, understand your generation more than other parents would, then be their best friend. They're not going to stop you. Other people will be fake. They'll be deceiving to you. Your actual best friends will be deceiving to you. But if your parents are your best friends and they actually understand you, then of course be their best friend. But if they're not, if they just don't care, if they're tiger parents as we've seen, then don't be their best friend. Just make some other best friends.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's see this question. So yes and no. Are teens today smarter than the previous generation because of their use of technology? I'm sure why not.
Well, we might have knowledge, but we probably don't have the wisdom. So we certainly know how to use technology far better than our parents, but we probably don't know the right way to use it sometimes, or maybe how we should use it. So it's kind of up to our parents to give us a hand in that, and we're not always entirely smarter than our parents when it comes to technology.
Okay, go ahead, Ansley, and then Kriti, you have something to say too. Okay, great, go ahead, Ansley.
I don't think that technology makes us smarter than our parents because there are so many untapped things within technology that teens don't use it for. We'd rather scroll through Instagram or Snapchat than go and Google search how to do our taxes per se. So I don't think that technology itself makes us smarter, but I think that how certain students use technology can make them more informed about different topics.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
I think that technology has actually hurt our generation a little bit. We've become very dependent on calculators and Googling stuff. I found that we have a lower general knowledge than probably the last generation because especially in math, I've noticed that people are just very dependent on calculators today, and I think that's kind of hurt us a little bit. And then in terms of the general knowledge, as I mentioned before, we Google stuff a lot more easily. We don't really know it. So.
Great, yeah, sounds good. Thank you. So is it a good idea to talk about your problems with your friends? Yes, no? Yes? It's okay to talk with the problems with your friends? Okay, good, okay. I see you have good friends then. That's nice. Is it important to be popular? Tell me why. Because you want to spread arts more and you need to have a voice. Tell me.
So I don't think popularity itself is important, but I think if you want to make any kind of change, then popularity is really important. Because if you don't have the platform, then none of what you want to happen can happen. I think it's the same, I think it's like a necessary evil. I think it's the same thing when I think about campaigns for positions. You can't do anything unless you have the money, right? And you don't want it to be centered around money. You don't want it to be about money, but you need the money to make it happen. That's the same thing with popularity. You need the platform to make it happen. If you want, so I want to be an actor, right? Not necessarily practical, but my ultimate goal is influence. And I want people to know that their dreams are possible, and I want people to see me as an inspiration, and I need a platform for that. So I don't have to be famous. I don't necessarily want to be famous, but I want to have a platform because I want people to see somebody who can help them become who they want to be, especially somebody who's a little bit different. You know, I think the senator earlier was talking about how President Obama made him feel like he could be somebody. And I want to be that for people, especially being a biracial individual. It's kind of hard. There aren't a lot of people like me. Not to say that it's a burden to who I am. A lot of people think that it's the worst thing for people to be biracial. It's not. It's just hard sometimes you can't check a box. And I want other little girls who don't fit in with black people or white people or Asian people who are just them. I want them to see that there are people like them that are excelling. And I think popularity is important because other people need representation. And popularity is key to representation.
Very well said. Thank you. So for the last few minutes before we go to the Q&A, I would like Apurva to start with 30-second closing thoughts from all of you.
Well, first of all, I'll say that this is the first time I'm attending, and I think Nazira has obviously brought a phenomenal platform. I wish what you're doing here locally, even 2% of that is being done nationally. I think this country would change a lot, right? Closing thoughts, I would say that from a lot of things that we have discussed here, I would say that, two things that still sort of stand out for me. One is that clearly there's a whole bunch of smart teenagers here that are just tremendously smart and bright. I would say that there are two things just as thoughts that I'd like to leave behind for them. One is that while we have a lot to learn from you, you have this notion of instant gratification that is very much part of your DNA, which is not part of my DNA. I got gray hair. And, my son was asking me, he's 5.5 years old, hey, do you have Snapchat? And I'm like, I don't. But he's like, well, you're not cool. And then he's like, your mom's got Snapchat, right? And there's a fundamental problem with this issue, and we should probably discuss more, is that back in the time, in the 70s, there's a professor in Stanford who did a marshmallow experiment. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of that. But kids that actually had a delayed gratification to not eat that marshmallow and wait, right? 20, 25 years allowing, absolutely they were way more successful, right? So just food for thought, how can you develop that within your own self? And it impacts a lot of things. It impacts finances, right? A lot of folks here that have made money have invested for years and waited before they got the returns, right? So that would be my closing thought, just for teenagers. But overall, I think you guys just are tremendously smart. And, I attended the first session, I was wearing the shirt, and then I saw all these smart people on the panel, and I went to the car and got my jacket because I want to at least look smart. Anyways, thank you.
Great job, Apurva. And Apurva, you are also the director of Winning Feathers, which is a public institute and provides a platform for kids to be trained on debates and public speaking.
Yeah. So, I started this platform where I thought there's a big gap out there for kids today, where there's a lot of focus on STEM everywhere, and there's all these Kumons out there. And I really think that public speaking, debate, leadership skills are very fundamental. So I've started this initiative called Winning Feathers, where I invite faculties from all over the country, do workshops and summer camps, so you can go check that out. And clearly this is the kind of panel that we want to develop, but we start really early. That's one of the differences. A lot of debating skills you develop in middle school and high school, but we are tapping into kids even within elementary range as well.
Great, thank you, Apurva. Shakti, your final closing thoughts.
I think we discussed many important things that sometimes we don't normally discuss every day, and that's important because you always feel like you can't say something just 'cause, but you sometimes even you go to the wrong people to talk to and you get the wrong answers, but we got to discuss some things that were very important for, especially for this generation, even misconceptions that were often had, especially the stigma. I found that was very important to me because as a person who has been like, people have shown stigma on me, especially like when I used to dress, and then now I still am a little bit scared of what I wear, but I'm a little more open now because it's who I am. You can't change that. And that's what I tell all my friends who are like, do you think this will look good? Or like, and I tell them, you wear what you like. It's not what I think. It's not about what anyone else thinks. I mean, of course, it has to be like normal, but but I mean, you do you. You can't. Don't try to be anyone else. That's just the main message. Don't
Great
try to
message. Do you like your dad more or your mom more?
Oh no, that's a hard one. They're both very alike, and I like both of them.
Okay, good one.
They're very like There's so many stereotypes. Like even at school recently, someone was talking to me, and I was like, "Yay, I got a 95," and they were like, "Oh no," and I was like, "What happened? Aren't your parents gonna beat you up or something?" And I was like, "What?" and then they were like, "You're Indian, right?" I was like, "Oh my God, no." But yeah, so they're very like chill, and they definitely don't beat me up. But yeah, they just break all those stereotypes, and yeah. They're both very similar, so I can't choose a favorite because, you know.
Great. And you have a chiller brother.
Oh, yeah, I do. He's awesome. And he also, like, all my friends are like, oh, my God, little brothers, little siblings are just so annoying. I can't say that. I'd never say that, actually. I don't think I've ever said that, ever. I mean, at home, of course, we still have verbal arguments, but I've never, like, hit him, and he's never hit me. But, like, even in school, if someone says something against their sibling, I never say something against mine. At home, maybe, but like not anywhere else because I'm his source of support. He's my source of support. Even sometimes when I get in trouble, my brother will be like, "It's okay. She's just this. She's just that." So yeah, he's very supportive, and
Great.
So
Thank
that's
you,
a good
Shakti. Good job.
Like Omar said, it's illegal to bully, right?
Yes. Valen, 30-second closing thoughts.
So one of my pillars in life is lifelong learning. I think for your whole life you need to be teachable, and you need to be receptive to what other people have to say, no matter their age or their experiences. I've gained insight today from 11-year-olds. I've gained insight from people over 60. It doesn't matter. Everybody has something different to share and you need to be open to learning it. One of the most insightful things I believe was said by, is it Himal? You mentioned when you were talking about raising kids, we can't raise them with the same layout that our parents raised us because it's a different world. And we need to adapt to our environment, and we need to know what they're around, not what we were around. And I think that was really useful to me, to thinking about perspective and thinking about the way that we should shape how we interact with other people, especially with your kids. Last, we were talking a little bit about culture and cultural awareness and learning about other people. Just really quick, Lanier High School in March, I go to Lanier High School, is hosting International Night on March 14th. If anybody wants to stop by, it's going to be a great night of culture celebration, and if you have anything to share, you can also let me know, and we just love for everybody to be out and there for that too. So thank you everybody for being here and for your time.
Thank you, Evan. Omer?
So I know a lot of you came here. Most of you are probably not all teenagers and in the audience here. And I know that some of you came here probably thinking that you want to learn some things from these teenagers. I know probably none of you actually came here for that, but I just think that at the end of this, this discussion, this insightful panel or 2 sessions of panels, I think that for all people here, regardless of whether or not you think you know everything, you probably do not, and I definitely do not. And I think that you're not always going to be, 100% right. You're not always going to be, the smartest person in the room. And I think that even if like a younger kid, he has some things to say to you, even if he's like 5 years old or even if he's like, 17 years old, I think that everybody, regardless of what age, you're going to be able to learn something from that person. And I think that although many of you adults here think that us teenagers are aliens, from out of this world, I think you'll still be able to learn some things and you'll still be able to achieve and better yourself if you take some notes from us. And I think that improving the communication between adults and teenagers is one of the key things that will be able to improve not just your life, but just our life. If you're able to better speak with, these teenagers and open up about yourself and tell them life stories, lessons, things that you regret, things that you wish you would have done, I think that not only will that benefit the child and those teenagers, but it will benefit yourself. You'll be able to have this life, this experience that you probably never think you'd ever, achieve. And I think that at the end of all this, if I could just say one word that really is so crucial to all people, it's communication. And the ability to communicate with other people, regardless of who they are, and to understand them and to convey your messages to them is such a crucial thing, especially in this developing and evolving world like we see. Like I know for a fact this uncle, he has a great initiative for this debate and for the public speaking. I think that it's a really great initiative for children especially to learn public speaking and to learn the ability to convey their messages and to speak out, because that's really the way that they're going to be able to achieve success, and the way that they're going to get far in life and be happy is by being able to express themselves, being able to show who they are, and communicate effectively. And I just want to say those quick thoughts.
Sure. And someone called me auntie this morning, and I said, can you call me sister?
Yeah, I skipped the bread. I'll go and shave it.
Go ahead, Aryan.
Okay, so basically what I learned was that the people of like the younger generations need to be more indexed to adaptations. Like everything is changing, like technology is changing, politics is changing, more people are getting forced into more smaller groups, cultural groups. As we've heard before, there are cultural differences, people are going to start accepting things more, and as you grow up, you can't stay the same. If you stay the same, then you're not going to be successful. That's just a simple fact. If you don't change to adapt with how economy is going, how politics is going, how people accept things, if something is racist now, it doesn't mean it'll be racist in the future. If you say it now, people will torment you for saying it. In the future, things could change. So everything is evolving. You need to adapt to just be yourself. You need to stay in your lane, but you also need to adapt so you can make yourself more accepted, you can make yourself more successful in the future.
Sure, and very well said, and as they say, change is inevitable. Yeah. So yes, thank you, Aryan. Go ahead, Ansley.
To continue with the ideas of change, I hope that we changed your opinions of our generations versus millennials. I know there's a lot of stigmas with millennials and that our generation is very similar, but I promise you that there are a lot more students like us out there that want to change the world for the better and are willing to work for it and work hard for it. And I also want to highlight how I feel that tonight a lot of us from this session and the last panel also brought together the ideas of unity through focusing on what is important to all of us, which I believe are love and compassion and empathy. So thank you for listening to us tonight.
Thank you, Ansley.
So I think two things really stood out to me. The first thing, to go back to the first question that was asked for me, I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head for when I was wrong. I can now. No, for the answer for why popularity is important, I didn't think of that point of view, but I'm very involved in community politics and activism, and I've realized that what you said is absolutely true. Without a platform, nothing would happen. So I definitely agree with you. And the second thing was the answer for the meaning of life. That really stood out for me.
Great, thank you. Great job. Go ahead, Amshu.
So I found this discussion very interesting because it was nice to see some striking differences between our philosophies, but it was even better to see that even in those differences we share similarities. For example, in the last panel discussion, I heard from an elementary schooler that the purpose of life is to enjoy life. Whereas I heard from Mr. Bajaj here that our purpose in life may be preordained, but both of them said that life is in the end what you make of it. So it was very interesting to see that we still share some beliefs and that we could still work towards bridging the gap between generations and find solutions that bring us together.
Very nice. And I think you sort of captured the essence of the youngest panelist from both the sessions and the oldest wise panelist from both the sessions. So I applaud you as well. Thank you, Amshu.
First of all, thank you, Nazira, for giving us this platform to discuss certain things which most of us don't discuss on a formal basis. So I would say I learned a lot. We always hear that we learn from each other, and this was a true example where I learned about how my child's future might be. I just hear about the negatives of having a teenager at home. I haven't dealt with one yet, so I am hoping, I'm very hopeful, I have these positive vibes from all of you, very talented kids, that if my child grows up like you guys, then teenage is not going to be a trouble, hopefully. And as all parents...
Just that they didn't tell you the other part.
Maybe the moms and dads have something else to say, but if this part is also there, Nazira, then I'll be thankful for that. It's very important. Parents always advise. So I will have an advice for all of you. We have talked about technology a lot today. You guys have a very strong tool. Use social media. Once in a while, it's good to post pictures or about your vacations or new dresses, birthday parties. It's good. But this media can be used to do so much more. Spread awareness, spread kindness. Everyone is not fortunate. Tell people that you're not different. You are just alike. Spread acceptability. It's easy to sympathize. It's not easy to empathize. So try to teach those things. Use this media to the best of your ability, not just to post pictures. I would say that because we did not have that opportunity. And now at 35, I don't even know how well to use those. I'm still learning. But you are doing it at a very young age, and you have a long way to go. You will have even more tools, I believe, in the next 20, 30 years. So use it well. So I'm very, very happy to know you all. And I feel good. I'll go back home with good thoughts in me that, yes, the future is not that dark.
Great job. Thank you, Madhu.
Well, I'm very thankful. As I said, I'm a very shy guy. I generally don't talk in public, in spite of the fact that I have headed a couple of organizations, but I never taught. I always ask somebody else to take over. I am very thankful to Nazira. She met me 2 years back in one of the Rotary meeting, and we just said hello and that's it. And then suddenly things happened and she started inviting me, and I feel very lonesome. After my wife has left, I really feel very lonesome, even though I have very, very beautiful home, very good children. Both the boys are very, very caring and loving, but nothing like this. This is so much love from all of you to everybody, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bajaj uncle, for the last words today. I will take 2 questions because of the time, and so Ranjit and Anilji, 2 questions, unless there's a burning question, a 3rd question, and then we're going to just take a group panel picture, and then, like I said, after that, don't leave. We have the surprise, and Trey, don't stop the recording as well. Okay, go ahead. What was the question? Anilji first. I think you raised your hands.
I usually kick off.
And wait, we need to give him the mic.
So I have, as I said, I usually have the honor of kicking off the QA session. So my question to the students is somewhat paradoxical in nature. It is, amongst the few things that you may not like about your parents, what is one that you would rather them not change? And why?
Yes.
One or two.
One or two. Yes. Go ahead, really. And you have to switch it on, I think.
I think we're good. Something I wouldn't change about my parents is,
You don't want to change, right?
yeah.
That you don't like, but you don't want them to change.
Okay, I don't like, I should say, my mom's not here, but I should still be careful. They challenge us so much. I say us, I have two siblings. They challenge us to always give 110% into everything we do, and we do a lot. They don't accept anything less than our full effort, ever. But that has shaped who I am. I don't think I would work nearly as hard as I do had my parents not given me the option not to work hard. My sister's pre-med at the University of Notre Dame, and my brother is studying mechanical engineering at Georgia Tech. I'm going to study acting at Boston University. They pushed us to be the best that we could be, and we wouldn't be where we are without that. So.
Great. One more. Anyone else? Apurva, did you have your hands up?
No.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, sounds good. Ranjit, you want? Okay, Kriti.
I have to think about this a little bit. So one thing that I wouldn't change from my parents is that regardless of what I do, they've always supported me and they've always stuck by me, but they know my limits. So they tell me when they think that something that I'm doing is not great or something that I'm doing is not correct. And as much as I maybe don't like that criticism, I think it's very important. And I think that what they've done to support me has helped me a lot, especially in the past year. They've traveled with me all over the country, like all over the East Coast for seeing colleges, and they've really stuck by me for that. Yeah.
Very nice. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Ranjit, go ahead.
I've attended a lot of your sessions, and I think...
Can you stand so the video can capture you?
Sure.
Okay.
I have attended a lot of your sessions, right? And I think this was probably one of the best
Did
so
you
far.
say that a couple of
No,
times?
this is better than that one. This is exactly the thing. And I'm not saying this just for that. No, seriously, this was really, really good. 2 panel sessions, and it was really, really good. And I also think based on especially the last 30 seconds of closing, that one of you said that maybe the adults have more wisdom, maybe, and knowledge might be the same, but more wisdom. I'm not necessarily sure. Maybe you guys are really, really close, because I think most of the points that we met, I don't think many of us would have thought the thoughts that you had. It's amazing, amazing. The question is, I believe, at least what I have seen, that mothers, now this must be my perspective, but mothers are more worried about the present, whereas fathers are a little bit more worried about the future. Now, my thought, this is my perception, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe it's too much of a stereotype, but what is more important? Should we be more worried about your future, or should we be more worried about your present and let you be you today? And would it be a contradiction if you give you what we want today, maybe it's not good for your future?
Great. I think we already have 4 hands raised. So Aryan, Shakti, and Ansley. And Amshu, did you have your hand? Okay, sounds good. Go ahead, Aryan.
Okay, so
Yes, you have to speak.
okay, so I believe that we should be focused on both equally, except that as soon as you grow up, when you keep growing up, you should start thinking about the future more. When you're a child, it should be more about the present. It should be about how like you need to have a childhood. If you're growing up without a childhood, then you have nothing to look back on. You have nothing to tell your children when they have their own childhoods. When you have a childhood, you need to be focused on the present, what you're doing right now, how you're living life right now. So that sets a basis for what you're going to be like in the future. Once you start growing up, like when you become teens, adults, think about the future. When you're becoming an adult, you have to think about where am I going to be in 10 years, 20 years? How am I going to make more money so I can support my children going to college? How am I going to treat the new people coming, when you getting into your elderly stages, how am I going to treat my grandchildren? How am I going to treat, like, you have to think about the future. If you're in the present, then it's the same thing as how you were 20 years back. You're still going to be acting the same way. And I talked about changing, adapting to the new ways, but you're still going to be the same person you are. So if you think about the present when you are older, it won't do much for you. You should be thinking about the present when you're a younger child, because that's what's going to be more important in the future. But when you're when you're growing up, you should think about the future as we are now. We'll think about colleges, what we need to do. Parents are thinking about how to save more money for colleges, and it's just thinking about the future is more effective for adults and teens than for children. But thinking about the present is more effective as a child.
Great. So Ansley, and then Kriti, did you have your hands up? Okay, so Ansley, and then Omer, Velin, and then we'll end it up, Shakti, and then we'll end it up with Purva, but we'll make it quick. You made everyone, all of them speak. Go ahead.
So Dr. Tim Elmore, as Valen mentioned earlier, has another habitude in a different book about windshields versus rear view mirrors, and it's a metaphor about how we can like glance back at our past, but we also have to focus on what's ahead of us. But I'd also like to extend the metaphor to actual driving. When you're driving, you're in the moment of where you are right now so that you don't hit the car in front of you, but at the same time, you also have to look ahead to see if there's a stoplight, so you have to slow down. So I think it has to be a balance of focusing on what's happening now so that you don't get bogged down by the plans of the future, but also being prepared for what's coming next so that you're not taken by surprise of what's next, so that you can enjoy what you're living in, but can also enjoy what your future is going to be.
Great. Go ahead, Omer.
First, I just want to go off the point that you originally made, talking about mothers being more concerned with the present. And personally, I think that that's not entirely true. I think that mothers and fathers too, they definitely do care a lot about the future, and they also do care a lot about the present. It's definitely, it coincides with what the other panelists were saying. There has to be a balance. However, I want to add a little bit twist to this, because I think that if most of the times, and especially in past generations, more likely your parents are more concerned with your future, what college you're going to go to, whether you're going to if you're going to be like valedictorian, if you're going to be able to be, what profession you're going to be. Are you going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer? I think that definitely parents, more so in the past, but even continuing to this day, they definitely do have a belief that everything you do right now, whether you are, going at home and just relaxing, walking outside, exercising, or, being here in this panel speaking today, it's all a culmination. It all ends up with a culmination of what you're going to be in your future, whether or not you're going to be an astronaut or whether or not you're going to be, the president of the United States. It's just, I think that definitely parents have to focus a little bit more on the future, because if you just focus too much on the present, if you're having fun, I think you're honestly going to be missing opportunities to improve your life that you can have in the future. And I think that by focusing on your future more to an extent, you're going to be improving your present as well. When you focus on, improving your grades at school, you're going to be improving your ability to have more fun in the future. Like if you go to a better college, you're probably going to be able to, be whatever profession you want to be. You could be a lawyer or a doctor or even like an actor, like you said, if you're able to, plan for the future, and on top of that, keep a balance with planning for the now.
Great, thank you. Yes.
So fast. I know you don't want the answer of balance, so the short answer is present. The short answer is focus on the present. Take a really quick glance at the future. Think about what you want for your kid. Concentrate that into morals and values, and then base your present on the morals and values, and you'll get to the future. So focus on, take a really quick, like she said, take a really quick look at what's ahead. Identify what that is that you want and live every single day in the present based on those things.
Great, well said. Thank you. Shakti?
I feel that they are both connected in some sort, but I definitely think the past is what leads up to the future. So you have to build the present. You have to build a very strong base in the present so that you can lead up to the future and do what you wish. Because in the present, if you're like, oh, let me just be happy and do whatever I want, but then when you are going to the future, you're like, well, I wasted my time all this long, and then you get to the future not knowing what you're going to do. So you have to be very strong in the present, build that base, and then you will get to where you want to go in the future.
Well said, Shakti.
Thank you, and I'll close it quickly. I don't want to sound like Sadhguru, but I'd like to rephrase the question. Don't worry about the present and don't worry about the future. I would say live in the present and plan for the future. I really think that from today's session, I feel like there's a lot on your heads, guys. There's a lot going on than back when we were teenagers. Take your time, learn how to manage stress, live in the present, breathe, enjoy, build memories, because it's truly important time frame too. It does not necessarily mean just because you're happy and managing your stress and living in the moment, you're not working hard. So I would say that's one of the things. Think a little bit lesser, get a little bit less worried about all these things. It'll all work out. Be happy. Be happy.
Great. Thank you so much. Let's give it up. Thank you all so much. We're just going to, and our next session is on March 28th. It's on entrepreneurship. What does it mean to become an entrepreneur, a business owner, and do you have what it takes to be a successful business owner? It's at Atlanta Tech Village on March 28th. It's a Thursday. We usually have it on weekends, but we also are adapting to change. So please welcome to that. And none of our sessions are charged, so it's participation at no cost, but we definitely make it happen with organizations like Apurva's that help us support the cost for the event, so thank you. And we'll just have a group picture. And like I said, summary is, I think, understand each other from adults to teenagers, respect each other, spread love, spread happiness. Life is all about enjoyment, but also it's what you're destined to, and what you do in the present matters for the future. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you. Don't leave yet. After our group picture, we're just going to have the surprise that we talked about, and we all have to participate.
Check one. Oh, it's not a dance performance. You're gonna stand up. Come on. You're gonna follow us. How did you do it? Let's go. Everybody, come on. Everybody. Come on.
बहनों और भाइयों, बड़े ही कम शब्दों में आपको सुनाना चाहता हूँ उस साल का लोकप्रिय गीत ये नाम ले जाता हूँ पूर्ण खटोला, बीन बजाती हुई आगे Shift your body, girl.
Go!